The lower lobes of the lungs and the diaphragm muscle are so important to being efficient and not over or underdoing, relaxing into the present moment, trusting your skill sets. So we don't think a lot about it, but there's major lymphatic drains that are affected by the movement of the muscles of inhale, the muscles of exhale. And then there's other movements that we can do that amplify the lymphatic system, which just allows us to remove more toxicity from the inner body, from the brain.
Welcome to Take a Deep Breath. I've just finished recording with Mr. Ed Harrold, and that's the podcast, Breathcast, you're about to see or listen to right now. Wow, what a great conversation with a great guy. So much energy. And, if you've got any sort of stiffness or tightness, this is the Breathcast for you, because we get really into all sorts of stuff here. Ed's trained with some of the greatest people in the world. He's got some great knowledge when it comes to pranayama, and he's a real top level breath coach. He's got a number of different books out. He's got programs you can work with him on, and he brings something different to the table when you speak to him. There's like that high energy and focus, but with the intention of relaxation and getting to know your body. So it's a lovely blend of energies going on there, and we do some great exercises and some stuff with the nose, nasal, different inhales in through one side and out the other. What does it all mean? So I really hope you enjoy this Breathcast. If you're watching, you can listen to it on iTunes. If you listen to it on iTunes or Spotify, you can also check out the YouTube version. And just a couple of very, very quick messages from me. This Breathcast is brought to you in conjunction with our other YouTube channel, which is called Hypnotherapy Unleashed, which has over 50 videos now dedicated to different hypnosis and meditations to help heal us. So if it's got something to do with addictions, anxieties, depressions, focus, energy, there's almost something for everybody on this channel now. So that's below in the description. So please check that channel out for us. My best friend Les, he does all the hypnotherapy. I do all the kind of techie stuff on the side, and we're bringing new videos there every week. So it'd be wonderful if you could pop over there and drop us a subscribe and a comment. The other thing for me is I'm really trying to grow the Instagram right now for Take a Deep Breath. So it's takeadeepbreath.co.uk on Instagram. Again, it's linked below. If you're on Instagram and you want to follow us, I try to put some stuff on there every week as well, and we're getting some nice comments and views. And it's another way to connect with the Take a Deep Breath community. It's such a lovely group of people. When you look in the comments section on all our videos, such a lovely supportive group. So that's just another way for us to connect. Anyway, I've just finished that Breathcast with Ed. I'm just doing the intro now. So let's finish here, and then you can go and meet Mr. Ed Harrold. So thanks a lot for watching Take a Deep Breath, and enjoy this Breathcast. Cheers. Fantastic. I've hit record, so we can get cracking. So Mr. Ed Harrold, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the Take a Deep Breath podcast. It is fantastic to have you here, and I've got hopefully some great questions to ask you and some great conversation for our audience. But I thought, first of all, if you don't mind, maybe you could start us off with a bit of a breathing exercise just to get us in the mode ready for a great conversation.
Beautiful. So I'm in a chair. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to anchor my awareness in my body. So I'm going to press down into my feet, engage my legs, just like I'm running, or just like I'm going to stand up. And as soon as I press down into my lower body mechanics, the first thing I notice is my spine becomes straight. Less muscles, less energy is used to hold this spine erect. And when my posture is optimized, mentally, I'm optimizing the opportunity with my personal and professional awareness. So feet on the ground, shoulder blades up, back, and down. Just try to open the shoulder girdle along the collarbone, making space between the ribs, just making it easier for the muscles of inhale and exhale to work. You might notice some tension there from the rigors of life. And just on the next round, just hold the shoulder blades back and down. Let the sternum open. Get a lot of space between your ears and the shoulders, and let go of any extra tension. Notice the features of your face. Separate your teeth a fraction of an inch. Allow the top of your tongue to rest on the upper palate, which stabilizes the lower brain. Release and relax your eyes back into the sockets, and this opens up the early cranial nerves so that we relax and feel into the present moment. And when you're ready, just Begin to close your eyes if that's applicable to you. Withdraw from the external world temporarily. Begin to inhale through your nose as slowly as you can, and then pause before you exhale. Stop the mind. Now exhale slowly through your nose, and at the base of your exhalation, pause. Stop the mind right there before you inhale a fresh moment. Repeat. Slow motion inhale from the navel to the collarbone. Pause. Slow motion exhale. Draw the navel back to the spine and pause. Take a round or two of this technique on your own. Slow motion breathing, brief retentions, creating a gap in our mind. If this is easy for you, inhale and hold the breath in for a 2 count. And then exhale, hold the breath out for a 3 count. And then reverse. After the inhale, hold in for 3. And after the exhale, hold out for 2. After the next inhale is complete, hold in for a 4 count. Exhale, hold out for a 3 count. After the next inhale is complete, hold in for a 3 count. And then exhale, hold out for a 4 count. Let your body breathe on its own after that round. And then turn your palms up, press your feet down. Let's open. On the next inhale, take your arms out to the side. Take them up overhead. Interlace your fingers. Hold the breath in and draw up on your pelvic floor. And now press the diaphragm down like you're trying to evacuate your bowels. Downward energy. And when the body calls for breath, exhale your hands away from each other, across the ceiling, slowly back to your legs. Take a resting breath. Bring your right hand up to your nose. Take your thumb, close off your right nostril. Slow motion inhale, left nostril, right prefrontal lobe. Close off the left nostril, exhale right. Inhale slowly up the right nostril into your left prefrontal lobe. Close off the right, exhale left. Bring the right hand down. Shift your awareness to the core of your heart, the essence of your purpose in your life. Know that you're doing great, that you are an unstoppable force for all that's good in humanity. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth with a sigh. And let's get started.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. That was awesome. Excuse me.
You.
I appreciate you. Thank you. And yeah, it's great that we can do this, even though we're on different parts of the planet, we can have these sort of conversations. So very grateful for the technology that we've got in front of us today as well. So Ed,
thanks for having me.
Oh no! Come on, this is great. So let's see where we go then with this conversation. So I think we've kept the agenda quite open. So with that exercise, then could you just tell me what sort of benefits are there, and why did you take us through some of those steps?
So first thing we want to do is we want to put the body in a position where we can optimize the inspiratory muscles, the muscles of inhale, stabilize the lower body, and stabilize the mental activity before we interact with the moment. Then we created a brief pause where there was a gap between the end of the inhale and the initiation of the exhale. And you notice there, we had the ability to stop our mind. to become silent. It's a blank computer screen. Beautiful to create neutrality, resiliency, new opportunities, curiosity. And then we had this long, slow exhale where the navel comes back to the spine, the diaphragm leaves the abdomen, it massages the lower lobes of the lungs. There's a parasympathetic response, there's a relaxation response, there's an inflammation reduction response, and then there's a pause between the end of the exhale and the initiation of a new inhale. And again, we can see at that point, the mind is a blank screen, and we can begin to remember that we have complete control of the mind. The mind doesn't control us based on who we were years ago. We're completely present. So just opening up those inspiratory and expiratory muscles, opening up the mind to being in the present moment fully without attachment, and then playing with different types of retentions based on what time of day it is. So we're staying in alignment with the deeper rhythms of the body during a 24-hour cycle. So we don't overextend ourselves during the day. We don't underextend ourselves. We always hit the mark to the best of our ability in every single choice that we're making during our conscious hours.
Yes, I love that. So just to dig into that a little bit, the choice of the retentions, what does that look like then? What would early morning look like versus late at night?
Great question. So when I'm working in a corporate setting, what I notice is that most of the missteps or poor communication takes place in the afternoon hours. We've exhausted all the energy of the body. We're running on fumes in the afternoon. And when the body's energy levels drop, it's really hard for the brain to remain completely present and make the best choices possible. Sometimes we become over emotional, or we'll reach for caffeine or sugar or carbs to temporarily bring our energy level up. Yeah. But what happens is then we have to pay the price later, and we'll have probably a difficult time falling asleep or staying asleep. So if you look at our autonomic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system is run off the nasal channels. If you look at the science behind breathing, the right nostril on the inhale and the left nostril on the exhale are sympathetic in their offerings to the various nervous systems of the body and the brain. The left nostril on the inhale and the right nostril on the exhale are parasympathetic, and it's very cooling. So when you think of just breaking down the inhale on its own is sympathetic. Your heart rate will go up slightly on your inhale. The exhale on its own is parasympathetic. It's cooling. It brings the heart rate back down. As the day unfolds, for me, it's about number one, efficiency, psychological efficiency, emotional efficiency, and patterns of movement in my body that are super efficient and dialed in. So there's no extra movement. There's no extra steps. You're completely in the present moment. If you think of the sympathetic system as sun, as light, if you think of the parasympathetic system, you think of moon, dark, cool. So in the morning, what I would invite my clients to do is every 90 minutes or 2 hours, you would inhale 100%, pause for a moment, and then you have 100% exhale, but you break it down into two little exhales. So you exhale 50% and pause, and exhale 50% and pause. So you're taking the expiratory muscles, the exhale muscles, and you're turning them on and off twice for one exhale. So you're doubling the effects of the parasympathetic qualities of exhale so that you're burning fat all day long, because we know that fat energy is a lot more sustainable, more of an endurance fuel than glucose or sugar. When you get into the afternoon and energy levels drop, you need more sympathetic energy. So you would reverse that sequence. Inhale in two little packages. Inhale 50%, pause. Inhale 50%, hold in. You'll feel a rush of adrenaline move through your body, but just enough so that you can handle it. And then exhale 100%. And do this for, say, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. It's a great way to reboot the brain, reboot the body, and keep you in nature's rhythm. So you're adapted to the environment that nature's giving you so you can maximize your efforts with the lowest heart rate as possible, optimal blood pressure, not over or under thinking, and always reducing inflammatory markers as we move through the day.
Wow. And when you're doing these exercises, the morning or the afternoon version, are you using both nostrils or are you closing those off as well to add extra oomph to what you're doing?
In this particular technique, use both nostrils.
Okay.
Now remember, you can inhale and exhale in any fraction you want. So what I like to do is I like to use the ocean sounding breath, or the Ujjayi breath, that comes to us from the yoga tradition, where we valve the epiglottis at the top of the trachea. So we've created a humidifying, a steaming force of the air that's going to come into the lungs, so it's already ready to be exchanged. So if I wanted to inhale in the fraction of quarters, I could just inhale 25%, pause. Inhale 25%, pause.
Yeah.
Inhale 25%, pause. Fill my lungs, hold the breath in. So right there, I've taken 100% inhale and I've broken it down into 4 little inhales.
Yes.
So I've taken my inspiratory muscles and I turned them on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. So I've strengthened these muscles of inhale in a very non-threatening way. Every time I stopped breathing, my mind sat still for me. I was in a noticing mode. I was in a reflective, meditative mode. Same thing you could do with the exhale. So you could break down an inhale and exhale into any fractional sequence you wanted based on optimizing what the external environment is offering you at that particular point of the day.
Yeah, fantastic. And when you do this Ujjayi breath, or the ocean sounding breath, isn't there some sort of connection between that and the vagus nerve?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the ocean sounding breath, for our brothers and sisters out there who might not be familiar with it, the easiest way to identify this is I bring my right hand up to my face. I open my mouth and I exhale into my palm as if it's one of these old pocket mirrors and I'm trying to fog it. So let's just close our eyes and then exhale through your mouth several rounds. And while you're trying to fog this imaginary mirror, you're going to pick up a vibration at the top of your trachea behind your Adam's apple. Once you've identified where that sound is coming from, close the mouth, sit up tall. Now on the inhale and the exhale, I want you to try to valve that air coming in and out through your lungs. So let's just try it for 30 seconds. Sit up tall in your mind. Contract that area with your throat, with the cartilage and muscles that are around there, and you'll hear a sound while you inhale and exhale, like you're holding a seashell up to your ears. It's very soothing and introverting to our sense perception. It's very calming. You'll notice that vibration around the thyroid and the vibration in the throat. This is going to activate the vagus nerve, as you spoke of, Mike. It's so important. But the main thing here is that you're taking less breaths per minute. This is key. Less breaths per minute. Not wasting energy. How's that make your mind and body feel?
Yeah, lovely and calm. I've used the ocean breath a couple of times, and it's just that, it's the sound, it's the slowness of it. I always wonder though, I don't know if you can answer this, how tight do you want it to go? Because I can make that quite tight, probably too tight, you know, when you're clenching in there. Great point.
I teach it 3 different ways. If I'm going to do some breathing or go out and work out, or I'm going to be in a business meeting, I want to be centered and have my finest self present. If I already have a strong mind-body connection, I'm feeling like I'm pretty dialed in and everything's going to be great. You know, I just use the softest sound as possible, just enough to tether the mind in the body in the present moment, never using any more energy than I need to. If I'm a little bit in, I'm a little bit out, I'm feeling grounded, but sometimes I'm getting a little windy between my ears, then I'll use a little louder sound just to alert the mind that I would prefer it to pay attention at this particular moment of my life with the opportunity that's on my doorstep. if I've lost my body and my mind is all over the place, I've had a very stressful day, then I'll use an aggressive, louder sound to really lasso that mind back into the body, get grounded. And then after 4 or 5 of those kind of louder sounds, then I'll dial it back to a moderate sound. And then I'll finally dial it back to a gentle sound. Okay. So there's 3 different ways you can use it, and always pick the way that you use the least amount of energy to refine your awareness of what's expected of you.
Yeah. No, I love that. Fantastic. And this links nicely then, because we're talking about vibrations. Humming breath. I'm a big fan of the humming breath. And I don't know if you can share any insight into, have you used it with your clients, on yourself, and what do you think about the kind of the humming stuff and the benefits of the nasal nitric oxide maybe and that sort of stuff?
So it's great. This humming breath allows the brain to reorganize itself or self-correct on the fly. Almost instantaneously. It vibrates the 2 most awake areas of the brain, which is our 2 prefrontal cortexes. And it just allows almost like a reboot. It's like hitting the computer and turning it on and off again, and you have like a fresh browser. Yeah. Now, when you're doing this, it's really important to finish your exhale. Feel the connection between your thyroid and the hippocampus in the top of your brain. So with adults, that higher brain, that hippocampus, is where all information is initially deported into before it goes back into our hindbrain, our subconscious brain. Now, when you breathe with the ocean sounding breath, that alone in itself is a minor version of the humming breath. There's a vibration in the throat, then there's a vibration in the lower part of the brain, which is going to turn off our self-preservation gene, clear up the 2 prefrontal cortexes, and it really opens up the hippocampus to a wider canvas of what we might think our skill sets are. So we can try a round or 2 right here.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, you don't want to agitate your mind. One of the ways we can agitate our mind is by breathing too fast. We don't want to breathe too fast. Okay. So you can stabilize the mind by using this ocean sound and having a nasal diaphragmatic inhale done as slowly as possible. So you're kind of feeling into the present moment. And then on the exhale, the humming sound, what you want to do there is don't let it go too high. Don't let it go too low. You don't want to have a falsetto sound. You don't want to break that sound. And you just ride it down to completion. Because at the end of the exhale, that last 25% of the exhale, the mechanics of the body, you have the diaphragm vertically pressing up. It's leaving the abdomen from the inhale. It's pushing up, massaging the lower lobes of the lungs, which we know are parasympathetic, and it's offering to the body, and it's massaging the lower lobes of the heart. And this gentle massage is paramount to keeping things moving, to keeping things flowing psychologically, emotionally, physically. And then right at the end, you can feel the brain and how it's just in this space of neutrality. So the humming sound can be specific to however you want to hum, but you don't want to use any type of humming with any words that mean anything to you. So it might be something like this. I'm just going to inhale slowly and then pause for a couple seconds because I want pressure to build with an internal breath retention. And this is going to give me a more dynamic humming exhale, which is going to be beneficial to the brain. So it might be something just like this. And you would go through several rounds of that. But it's just great for the brain. And let's face it, we are really overworking our brain. There isn't any person I work with that is underthinking anything. Everybody's overthinking.
True. Very true.
We're so scattered right now. And this is a great way to reboot your brain. And doing this a couple times a day, especially working at home, because nobody knows you're doing it.
Yes, this is the beauty,
It's not
isn't
like
it?
you're in the office and somebody's over in the other cubicle having that humming sound,
Hell, yeah.
and they're calling security.
Yeah. So when you did that, I lost it about halfway through. I think the noise cancellation of Zoom kind of cut it out.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But it was quite a high pitch, I noticed. So does the pitch make a bit of a difference? Because I noticed, like, when I do it, I'm trying to find the bit that resonates the most. Because I'll play about and like, and I can feel like maybe there, I can feel a real vibration in kind of the sinus areas. But I noticed yours was a bit higher. So is there some different benefits in pitch?
I believe there definitely is different because it's all different octaves.
Yes.
In music. My thing when I initially start to work with people is just organically and intuitively, whatever sounds you make is fine with me. Yes. It's really more about the vibration. Yes. And then down the line, we're all result oriented people. And then you'll play with different tones and see, this is good. I don't quite like that tone. That doesn't feel quite right.
Yes.
So all of us are kind of in a lab inside our body, inside our brain. And the great part about breathing and controlling our breath or pranayama is there's so many different ways, so many different octaves that we can use to have more vitality psychologically, to have more resiliency psychologically. The ability to let go of things that aren't important anymore sometimes is difficult for folks. Yeah. And when you have this humming sound, this is something that's been used for thousands of years on earth to keep people centered, to keep you in that heart of yours and allow that heart and brain to communicate like an open channel fearlessly.
Love it. Love it. And I love what you say about the home working as well, because that's so true, isn't it? Because when you sit in an office, I come from a big corporate background, I can't sit there humming or nostril breathing because, like you say, security is going to come and take me away. But I think that's something, if people are watching this now and they are in some sort of home working opportunity, then breath work, I try to do a little bit of movement throughout the day now because I can be static for quite a long period. So I'll try and do some press ups or some dips or just something just to get the body moving again. You talked about, I think you said something to do with fluid and flow a minute ago. I would love to know any great exercise tips for moving lymphatic system around.
Yeah, so this is a great question. And moving lymph is so important to helping our digestive system. Okay. Now, when we think about controlled breathing or pranayama or improving respiration, the first benefit of optimal respiration is right below it. You're going to amplify your DEA, your digestion, elimination, and assimilation of what you're putting in your belly. Right. So when we think about breath control, we're amplifying the diaphragm, which is the primary muscle of inhale. It massages the abdominal area, specifically on the left side of the belly. On the inhale, you're going to massage your stomach and spleen. And on the right side of your belly, you're going to massage your liver and gallbladder. The solar plex region of the body and these four organs play a huge role in our level of energy. In between these organs, in the middle of the solar plexus, is a minor nervous system called your enteric nervous system. And there is 95% serotonin and 50% dopamine in this enteric nervous system. And when this enteric nervous system is activated by a stronger phrenic nerve and a stronger diaphragm muscle, or a diaphragm muscle that has more range of motion, it can push down further. It can lift up further on the exhale. The enteric nervous system is amplified to improve digestion, elimination, and assimilation. And when we get cloudy in the gut, we get cloudy in the head. We get this foggy mind. It becomes very difficult to make decisions. Now, the lymphatic system is a branch of our digestive system, and it runs all through our body. A big part about breathing is amplifying the lymphatic system. So when we did this movement earlier, and we took the hands overhead, there are major lymphatic drains inside the upper arm in the armpit area, and specifically on the right side of the belly, in between these ribs, there's major lymphatic drains. So as we become more efficient on our inhale, what does that mean? It means that you're amplifying your phrenic nerve. The diaphragm muscle not only becomes stronger, it has more range of motion. In other words, it can press down further on the inhale, supporting the spine and patterns of movement in our lower body for our athletes out there. And it can come up higher, evacuating the abdomen and getting a wonderful massage. You know, the lower lobes of the lungs and the diaphragm muscle are so important to being efficient and not over or underdoing, relaxing into the present moment, trusting your skill sets. So we don't think a lot about it, but there's major lymphatic drains that are affected by the movement of the muscles of inhale, the muscles of exhale. And then there's other movements that we can do that amplify the lymphatic system, which just allows us to remove more toxicity from the inner body, from the brain.
Love it. So would you recommend then some sort of deep, slow breathing using the nose, but at the same time getting the arms up then? Is that like a nice little exercise there, just sort of breathing in with the arms coming up and then a pause?
Without a doubt. So a lot of what I'm doing with clients is controlled breath work with therapeutic movement. So that the therapeutic movement is breaking up adhesions at any part of the breathing process that's impeding the movement or oxygenation in my inner world. I want to transport oxygen from the soles of my feet to the crown of my head. I don't want to have a lot of mucus on the brain. I mean, you don't blow your nose on your laptop. The brain specifically it's a laptop. Yeah. So you want it to be free of excessive fats, mucus, phlegm, and these movements, or another great movement to open this up is I'm in my chair. Yep. And I'm just going to slow my breath down. I have this ocean sound or Ujjayi sound to center my mind in the body. And what I'll do here is I'm just going to imagine that I'm just going to climb a ladder. And this breaks up the energy around the rhomboids, where we have those little energetic cysts inside the trapezoids. We have these little knots that we get as life unfolds that you really can't get at unless you get a massage and someone else has to do it for you. Well, guess what? We can do this movement. We can break up these adhesions right now. Ooh, so slow motion breath control, hands come to the shoulders, feet are on the ground, straight spine, open mind. And then inhale, reach that right hand up as high as it can go. Exhale the right hand down. Inhale the left hand up. Reach it up as high as it can go. Exhale it down. Reach up. Exhale down.
I like that.
Up. And as you see how you can get to those little knots that we have inside the scapula.
That's lovely.
You know, you can go, I like to go faster in the morning, and I like to go slower, more therapeutic in the afternoon. But this is a little brain break you can do with the computer. It just opens us up. Feel how that whole rib line opens up. All these lymphatic drains, the ribs, the lungs. So when you come back down now, you take a breath and feel how light you are.
That's amazing. Ed, I love that. That's so good. Yeah.
Because it's so, the inhale, when we're doing this well over a period of years, it should be effortless. The exhale should be effortless. Yeah. And when your breathing is effortless, you can take your mental intention, what you want to do, whether it's business, athletics, or health and wellness, and you can manifest it by the time you exhale. Yeah. The more we strain, I get it, but we're actually become our own worst enemy. When we strain, our breath is strained, we put on some armor, we trigger the amygdala. There's all sorts of extra defense and offense. And it's like we're walking on eggshells in our own beautiful body and mind. Yeah. So just think about little exercises that you can do.
I love it. I love that.
Now, if you wanted to add more controlled breathing to that, you could actually add cardio to that. Okay. So if I wanted to spike my heart rate up like I was sprinting on a track, I could inhale up and hold. Squeeze my belly. I could hold in for 5-10 seconds and then just exhale down slowly. And then inhale up, hold, squeeze that left belly. Feel the heart rate start to go up and then come down. If you needed to get a quicker hit, exhale up, exhale all the air up or out and hold out. Now your heart rate will come up faster here because there's less air in the body. And then inhale down. Or exhale all the air out, hold out. Wait for your heart rate to go up. The body will call for breath. Respect that. Inhale the hand down.
Brilliant.
So one of the key things I like to do with folks around breath control is that I like you to become super efficient with your conscious hours. There's 4 ways we train as human beings, whether you're an athlete, a CEO, or whatever you're doing. There's cardiovascular training, there's strength training, there's flexibility training, and there's mental training or meditation in motion. When we use breath control around simple movement, that's going to give you a spike of cardio. It's going to break up stress in the body without getting the heart rate too high or getting it too low. When you're moving your body against gravity, your body weight against gravity, there'll be strength toning, there'll be flexibility. And as soon as you control your breath, your mind is present right there with you. So you're meditating in motion. What could be more efficient than that?
Yeah, meditating in motion. I love that. You should trademark that. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, but yeah, twisting.
There's two forms of meditation. There's meditation in motion, and there's stillness meditation.
Yes.
So there's really only 2 ways you can go before you try to meditate and go into all the landmines that you might bump into in your ego. I like to teach a form of meditation that I call noticing. So no matter what is going on in the ticker tape of my mind, I simply notice it without attachment. I notice it. It's just information. It's just an electrical impulse, and I just let it pass and flow. I just move into the mental world of just noticing. I don't cling to what was great in the past. I don't push away anything that was disruptive to my peace in my past. I'm just an open channel of noticing information. And this begins to turn on the brain to a much higher level of consciousness so we don't get bogged down too much in our old story or anybody else's story of us. Everybody else's opinion of me is none of my business.
Yeah, no, I like that because we too often let our there was I can't remember who said that. It was like, I don't worry. It's not what I think about myself. It's not what you think about me. It's what I think you think about me. So it's kind of going those 3, and that blew my mind when I heard that. So what I'd like to ask you then, talking about stories, is how did you get to this place you are today? Because as you're talking, I'm watching you move and I'm watching your energy. You almost remind me of like a Tony Robbins of Breathwork. You got that energy and that passion, and I would just love to know what brought you to this place where you're sitting here today talking about breath on a podcast. Can you maybe share a bit about your background?
I grew up on the beaches of southern New Jersey, USA. I grew up right on the beach. I was in the ocean every day of my life, and I played all water sports. I was really comfortable in the water no matter what the size of the waves. And then I became a professional marathon swimmer. Nice. So I went through a phase in my life where I was in endurance events, swimming for hours and hours and hours. And that took a toll on my mind. It took a toll on my body, and the rigors of training, which, in the 80s, training was always fear-based. Like you had to do more for you to think you were making progress rather than listening to your body and what your body was offering you at that particular moment. It was always willpower, no pain, no gain, always forcing. And when looking back on it, I noticed it was all trying to overcome imaginary fears. So about 1994, I did a 200-hour yoga teacher training in the United States. And lucky for me, it was a therapeutic form of yoga because my body was a wreck. I couldn't touch my knees, let alone put my hands on the ground. My spine, my knees, my shoulders, everything was destroyed from the rigors of the youthful sports that I was in. And there was a therapeutic yoga part of the program. There was a huge pranayama part to the program. So it was all about breath control, which really turned me on because I began to see, oh my God, breath control is the key to life. It's the key to unlocking the treasure that's buried inside me on a regular basis. Yeah. And it's based in meditation. So I had a corporate job back in the 90s, and my gym time was my time. Like I need this time to cleanse my mind, my body, take care of myself. And I got caught in the office, and I had a dinner engagement at like 6 o'clock. And I would usually get to the gym at 4:30 or 5. Today I didn't get there till like 5:30, and this little voice in my head, I'm all agitated. I don't have enough time, blah, blah, blah. And this little voice in my head said, Ed, do the yogic pranayama in the Western exercises and watch what happens. So I'm like, okay, I'll try it. So I go over to the lat pull down machine and I take about half the weight I normally would warm up with. So I've got like maybe 50, 60 pounds, and I inhale with that ocean sound, and then I hold the breath in, and I did as many reps as I could in slow motion with integrity with my breath held in. And then I exhaled, and then I inhaled. I think I did like 8 reps. And then I exhaled, inhale, and then I did 6 reps with my breath held in. And then I took a resting breath. I inhale, held, and I did 4 reps with my breath held in. And then I took a resting breath and I did 2. And I got off that machine, and I knew at that moment my life was never going to be the same, because I took lighter weight and I built more strength. I took lighter weight and I got cardio, like I was on a treadmill.
Yeah.
So I added aerobic activity to something which is normally anaerobic. All this energy came up from around my heart. And I knew at that point I'd unlocked the master key in combining Eastern techniques with Western training protocols.
Right. Wow. Very cool. And when you did that then, so what happened after that point? Did you start to teach that, or how did you get to become somebody that was kind of a breathwork and instructor, breathwork facilitator? What was the kind of next bit after that?
Kind of a light bulb went off inside of me, because normally I was doing the pranayama on a yoga mat, in yoga postures or in meditation. And then when that light bulb went off, every single exercise that I was traditionally doing in the gym, I began to add some sort of breath control protocol to it to amplify the effects of what I was doing, while at the same time doing less wear and tear to the various parts of the body that sometimes can be injured in traditional Western training. So as I began to incorporate more of the breathing control into all of my workouts, it was all about breath control first and whatever movement I was doing second. And putting that in there, well, psychologically, the big thing was getting more out of less. I didn't have to work out as hard or as long.
Yes.
I never really put a lot of pressure on numbers. Like, I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to do that. I began to realize that my body was always doing the best it possibly could do every second of my life. It was my ego that was interfering with what my body was offering. And I found almost what I call a relaxed intensity to what I was doing. It wasn't always more. It was tuning into what the body was offering me, not just physically, but mentally. When we tune to the body, we're always present. The body is always in the present moment. It's the mind that can wander off into the future or the past. And I found great benefit of becoming more present in my life through my body. And that began to lead to teaching clients this. And most human beings are a lot like me. We're visual, kinesthetic learners. We love the feeling of being in our body and moving our body. We judge the world or make perceptions of the world by what we see. And adding the breath control into exercise, whether I'm working with professionals or Olympians or weekend warriors or just people getting back into it who just might have put on an extra pound or two. Every single person I've worked with has never gone back to the old way they were doing it prior to the breath control.
That's so cool. And when I look at breath, I see, and I guess I've got to be careful how I say this, but I see several different camps of breath work. And I know there's probably thousands of different breathing techniques, because, you can play about with it so much. But I spend a lot of my time thinking about kind of Buteyko and the Oxygen Advantage and Patrick McEwen's slow nasal breathwork kind of stuff. But then my original induction into breathwork was Wim Hof and, the kind of Tumo side of things. And I've done a little bit of something similar to holotropic breath, but never done the full holotropic breath. And I kind of see those as almost two ends of a breath spectrum. And then you've kind of got all the pranayama stuff that kind of sits throughout. Do you dip into both those sides of the slow nasal and the Wim Hof-esque Tumo holotropic side, or is it more? I guess what I'm trying to ask is where do you get your techniques from? Do they come from all over, or do you kind of stay in one particular area?
Well, my original teacher of pranayama was an Indian saint, and he practiced pranayama and meditation for 10 hours a day, every day for 30 years straight in his life. So when I got this information, I knew that this was what my life was all about, because I was around someone that had practiced thousands of different techniques and had basically dedicated his life to living an enlightened life. Mm. So what I did was I took the information that he offered me, I took it into my body, took it into my mind, and then I blended it with my Western professional athlete background, and I began to hybrid the two into one training platform.
Yeah.
I totally believe that anything you can do in mouth breathing, you can do in nasal breathing more efficient and better for a longer period of time. I'm not a big proponent, especially in today's world where everyone is already stressed out and exhausted. Their adrenal glands are fired. I'm not a big believer in long mouth breathing. If you need to sigh or you need a mouth breath 1 or 2 times to reset your mind and body, that's great. But I'm all about the big picture in humanity and relaxing everybody and always getting the most out of the least.
Yes.
So rather than breathe fast through my mouth, I can breathe fast through my nose, not breathe at all through my mouth, and reset my heart rate and autonomic system within 2 or 3 breaths. Yeah. So whatever can be done with the mouth breathing, you can do the same thing through your nose better if you learn the specifics of how and when to apply slow nasal breathing or fast nasal breathing. Now, there's times you might want to have a fast nasal inhale and a long nasal exhale. There's times you might want to have a slow nasal inhale and a fast nostril exhale, getting that carbon dioxide out. There's times where you want to hold out longer than when you want to hold in. There's times when you want to hold in longer than holding out. The idea here is to get the foundational information and always look to get the most out of the least. Don't waste your energy. Try to relax into an intense state. Don't try to bring up intensity and try to relax, because it's okay. But we have to remember the only reason we mouth breathe is to save our life. It's designed to remove us from being chased by a lion. Yeah. We're all designed to be nasal breathers. That's how we were born when we came out of our mother. The DNA is designed to breathe through your nostrils. It's about efficiency. When you breathe through the mouth, there's a lot of things that occur that elevate aging. And that might be okay every once in a while if you want to have a super holotropic event and you take that deep dive into your mind, or some sort of ayahuasca event, or really blow your doors open. But for me, I can get you into the same space a lot more gently.
Oh, I like that. I like the sound of that. So you can still get those sort of visual experiences, deep spiritual almost experiences, but you can get there using the nose as well.
Well, the idea, if we're speaking with today's neuroscience, is to activate our pineal gland.
Right.
So if you're going to breathe through your mouth and hyperventilate, you're going to really turn on your pituitary gland, which basically is the 9 to 5 boss on how everything is going to be regulated. And that's not going to be a spiritual experience. That's going to be a 9 to 5 physical experience per se for most folks. What we're trying to do is we're trying to relax into that deeper state of awareness. You don't have to hit the wall to find out you shouldn't be running into the wall. When you breathe through the mouth rapidly like that, you're only going to take and exchange the air through the top sleeve of your lungs. And the top sleeve of your lungs are imbued with sympathetic nerve endings. And that's going to bring up a lot of adrenaline and cortisol. And that's great if you need to fight someone or get away from being in a fight. But basically for me, I try to keep all my action down lower. When you breathe through your mouth, the nostrils, the turbinates in the nose turn off. Anything the brain sees that you're not using, it turns off. So this habitual mouth breathing turns off the natural way we were breathing when we came out of our mother, when we were this enlightened child, always in the present moment.
Yeah.
As soon as you breathe through your mouth, a couple things happen. You fire off the HPA axis in your brain, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal glands. Digestion stops. All the energy leaves the gut to come out into your muscles and bones. And nobody's dying of muscle cancer. People are dying of organ cancer. We have to take care of the gut. When you think about that HPA axis going on, it's going to trigger your amygdala. And your amygdala is kind of like your war department. You know, it attacks or defends, it protects you at all costs. And we want to tone the amygdala down into today's society. There's all this mindless, violent crime going on everywhere. We need to turn that part. We're all part of the same team. So what I'm trying to do is turn down that emergency response of the HPA axis. I'm trying to turn on the hippocampus where I can have new awarenesses around the old part of my story and evolve my skill sets while at the same time stalling aging as much as possible. And this is just my theory and how I teach clients. I'm not here to judge or compare or label anyone else and what they're doing. I'm sure there's huge value in all forms of breath work. This is just what I'm comfortable with.
No, I love that. And this is what I love about these sort of breath casts, is I get to speak to people like you and get your perspective on what you're doing and how you do it. And it's wonderful to hear. And I really do love what you're saying there around, let's just slow it down. Let's turn, and I love it how you call the war factory. Let's get that war factory turned right down or turned off, and let's just relax, because you're right, there's so much
Nobody
stress.
ever wins in war.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wins in war.
Yeah.
Nothing ever gets done. The idea, one of the great benefits of controlling your breath is you have the ability to eavesdrop and control your mind and direct your mind where you want it to go. Now, we know when the heart rate gets up over 75%, the two prefrontal cortexes basically shut down and the hindbrain comes up and pulls up an old file in the present moment and it replays it.
Right.
So the idea here for me is to teach most folks how to manage the moment with a 75% heart rate or lower, because then they can become super neuroplastic in the brain and they can continue to reduce inflammatory markers in the body or burn fat in the body. There's many reasons why you want to burn fat. Number one is it's easier for the body to distribute oxygen where it's not blocked by excessive mucus, phlegm, and fat. Cancer cells can't form where oxygen is moving through. So it's really, really important that we have the ability to oxygenate ourselves at a level, I mean, both the exhale and the inhale.
Right.
There's you're exhaling just as much air as you're inhaling. Yeah. CO2, 2 oxygen molecules. O2, 2 oxygen molecules. Why would you want to exhale out through your mouth and dump all that energy back out into the field before your body had a chance to exchange all of that oxygen? So as you begin to really lengthen that exhale and in a very gentle way, you build up more CO2 tolerance. And then when that fresh O2 comes in on the inhale, you have twice as much more power in your body to control your mind.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Ed. That sounds great. Can I ask you about lung capacity? Is it important? Can you improve it? And if you can improve it, what would you recommend people do? Or is it something that is not important? It'd be good to get your thoughts on that. I get asked that a lot.
Extremely important. I think the science today says that lung tissue begins to deteriorate around the age of 30.
Right.
Most folks, when I first meet them, aren't deep breathers to begin with, so they're not utilizing the chambers of their lungs. They're not utilizing the lower lobes. They're not really utilizing the upper lobe fully. They're somewhere in between. So they're not stretching that lung tissue as much as they possibly can. The lungs are unbelievable in regard to keeping us healthy, wealthy, calm, wise, everything we want. God made 2 of these things. And when you think about it, the problem or the challenge is that the lungs aren't muscle. Lungs are tissue. And lungs are only going to be able to expand as much as your diaphragm becomes strong and your rib cage becomes elastic. So if you have a weak diaphragm and your rib cage is like steel beams, you're not going to be able to have the energy that you need to overcome that little part of the mind where there's always self-doubt, or things aren't going to work out for me, or somehow I don't have a happy gene. Everybody else is happy but me. So it begins, number one, you inhale, that diaphragm through the nose will move down vertically as far as it possibly can go. How do you know that? Because you can feel the support in lumbar 4-5. If you notice when you inhale through your mouth, the diaphragm doesn't vertically press down. The air never reaches the lower lobes of the lungs. The low back collapses. The digestion becomes sluggish. All these things we want to move away from. So just in a simple experiment, if you're seated in a chair and you begin to inhale through your mouth, notice what you feel in your low back. Compression. When you inhale through your nose and that diaphragm moves down, your spine lengthens like an accordion. Again, improve respiration, you improve digestion. Huge. Reducing inflammation. So important. Now, here's a little advanced technique, because I like the diaphragm to have a huge range of motion. And the more range of motion it has, the more we're going to extend and lengthen lung tissue so it lives longer. So on the inhale, feel the diaphragm move down. Hold the breath in. Now lift your ribs away from your hips. So now you've taken the diaphragm and you moved it up to where it's going to be on the exhale. Now exhale through your nose, feel the diaphragm come away from the low back, hold the breath out, and now push the diaphragm down like you're trying to evacuate your bowels. Resting breath. You feel that heat? So what we did here is we used the brain and we took the diaphragm away from its natural organic movement to create more range of motion. Yeah. So I inhale, I hold in, the diaphragm dome is pressing down. I hold in and I lift the diaphragm up. Now I've taken it up under the lower lobes of the lungs. Now I'm going to exhale. The diaphragm's going to evacuate the belly and it's going to come up under the lower lobes of the lungs. I'm holding the breath out. Now I push the diaphragm back down to where it would be on the inhale, and you get this amazing source of energy, blood, minerals, nutrients, moving down through the spine and the low back. You can feel the heat coming right out through the brain. Yeah,
I feel so much more alert from doing that.
That's a great technique. Learning how to control the diaphragm muscle is challenging because, well, number one, it only has one motor nerve. And number two, it doesn't have a fascia on it per se, like, okay, I'm pinching my arm and I can feel the bottom of my bicep here. The diaphragm isn't like that. You can't really, touch it and feel it. It's due to its location. So if you just think about the diaphragm can be over time, you can figure out how to move it 4 different ways. You can figure out how to push it down.
Yep.
And you can figure out how to lift it up. You can push it out and you can draw it back. And that north-south, east-west movement just creates more blood flow and more stimulation of the phrenic nerve and more range of motion of this muscle. Let's be very clear here. The diaphragm muscle is the most important muscle out of all 600 muscles, and it has so many responsibilities to the mind and body. It's basically an organ.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. People need to know that more, don't they? That's one of those things. Because I've suffered from a lifetime of gut sucking, Ed. I had Melissa Vranich on, and she introduced me to that term, just always trying to hide that gut. And so I'm in this place right now where I'm aware of it, but still when I'm not thinking, my gut gets sucked back in again. So I don't know if you've got any tips or tricks for people that are in that kind of tenseness, because it's like if I'm standing up and then I'll think, oh, I wonder what my gut's doing. It'll naturally be tense and I have to just let it go, but it'll tense up again. And I'm also very, very stiff in the intercostals. So if anything you can share there would be wonderful to hear.
We're in a chair. One of the great things that we have in the spine is that we can twist the spine. And it kind of wrings out the organs of stressors. It takes the organs off their normal attachments where they normally are resting, and oxygen and blood and nutrients can move through there. So if I just have my right hand down on my right leg, I press that right hand down. I just take my left hand out front and I inhale the left hand back behind me and hold the breath in. Maybe back bend just a little bit. And now push down with your diaphragm. And then exhale the left hand back to the left leg. Left hand down, right hand up. Follow the thumbnail. Inhale. Twist those organs. Twist that spine. Now hold the breath in. Back bend. And now push down like you're trying to evacuate your bowels. Exhale back. Very simple. Another way of doing this is you have your hands out front and it's kind of like a backstroke technique. And this is going to open up your intercostals. It's going to open up the ribs. It's going to release tension around the shoulder girdle. And it's just with a focused breath, it's up, back, and down. Up, back, and down. Elbows bent. That's it. Feet are on the ground. Up, back, and down. And just notice what's happening as the hands move across the top of the brain. Notice the right brain has the ability to move into the left brain moves into the right. We strengthen the corpus callosum, and all sorts of good things happen. But notice the ribs. You're getting into spaces you don't normally get into.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah.
And when you come out of that, again, effortless breathing.
Yeah. No, fantastic.
Did that help?
It did. And also what helped earlier was this one. Because I've got kind of that going on, so I'm trying to, open it all up. So, okay, and just practice that morning and night sort of thing, once in a couple of minutes.
I would say I teach those in something I call brain breaks, and I recommend doing them every couple hours for a minute or two.
Yeah,
and it's just this mind-body reboot, and then when you re-engage the information, it's clear. You can also do this in between sets in the gym. You can also do this in between intervals on a track. There's all sorts of different things that you want to do. So when we did this movement, one of the things that we did was we impaired the movement of the diaphragm. We made it harder for the diaphragm to move up and down.
Right, okay.
And that's great because it's like putting a dumbbell on the diaphragm. So when you think about here, you are seated tall. This is probably the easiest way for the diaphragm to vertically work like a plunger up and down, north and south.
Yeah.
As soon as you move your body, you're impairing how this muscle can move going down.
Right.
So you're strengthening inspiratory muscles, diaphragm, intercostals, scalenes, all those muscles. You're stretching expiratory muscles. You're getting the gut, the ab muscles. You're getting the obliques, the transverse abdominals, the rectus abdominis. All of this area. It's so important to love your belly. It doesn't matter what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen. It matters what it feels like. Your belly's a master feeler of what the best version is of ourselves at any given moment.
I love it. Yes, because we've got to stop this body shame and we've got to release the gut and we've got to get that thing moving because we're too rigid, too many of us. I'm definitely one of those people.
Doesn't look it.
As we move towards the end, then it's been a fantastic conversation. I've got one last question for you, and then we can kind of close off. But is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about today? Because I'm conscious of this wealth of knowledge, and I want to make sure the viewers get as much as we can out of you, Ed.
I think folks need to have an on-the-fly tool to stop negativity, negative self-talk, self-sabotage. It's a nasty habit to get into. So trying to be in a state of positivity or neutrality with your thoughts. If you think about it, the energy is moving up and down. The diaphragm's moving up and down on the inhale and exhale. What's going on in the brain is east and west. Hence, here's the problem. We've got these thoughts going east and west, and we've got energy moving up and down. How do we get ourselves back into that column of north and south energy rather than always identifying ourselves with a ticker tape going east and west? So again, it's a tool of noticing. The first breath we did at the beginning of our podcast, just that little inhale, pause, little exhale, pause.
Yeah.
Just little things that you can stop the mind and authenticate the moment. What's the truth of this moment for me? right now. That's where the action is. And continuously reinforcing the grooves of your brain to search for true north and don't water it down.
Yeah.
If it's not true north, don't talk and don't make a choice. So work on little skills that you have on the fly to self-correct and turn off that big pity party unless it's an emergency.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. I lied. I've got a couple of quick questions, actually. How did you get to meet Goldie Hawn? How did you know Goldie Hawn?
I was lecturing at the Aspen Brain Lab with a bunch of neuroscientists, and I was speaking about how breath works with the brain and the body to produce neuroplasticity and flow states in the brain. And I guess she is friends with the director of the Brain Lab, and she was on the conference.
Right.
So she heard what I was speaking about, and actually that interview or that lecture can actually be got through my website.
Okay.
It's with the Aspen Brain Lab. And she saw the parallels for teaching kids and educators and parents these skills would be so important for the schools that she runs through Mind Up globally. And I was, honored to be part of her program. And she's just a treat. She's super smart and she cares deeply about children. And I'm honored to be part of the Mind Up program.
Very cool. Yeah, I have to say, I absolutely love the film Death Becomes It. It's one of those childhood films that I had. So, no, fantastic. When I saw that interview between you, I was, oh, he knows Goldie Hawn. Another question for you then, a quick one. Yawning. Do you know much about what's going on? Why we yawn? Why does it feel so good? Is there something going on? What's the body trying to do there?
Well, the body is in charge. Regardless of what your ego tells you, the body actually is in charge, but it doesn't have an ego. The energy of the body has to follow our awareness.
Yeah.
So when you think about the yawn, it is a built-in tension release to various different systems in the body. It's a great tool to maybe take a look at. Maybe I'm working a little too hard right now and I need to get a better night's sleep or cut back on exercise a little bit, or maybe a little more meditation. It's an indicator of how hard your body's working. And it is perfectly natural, but if it begins to happen all the time, back off on the RPMs of life just a little bit and really tune back in and maybe do a little journaling or something about how you maybe make an agreement with yourself about how you're going to move forward from this moment on with your thoughts, your relationships, becoming more efficient, because the body's in charge. I mean, in the most simplistic terms, nobody wants to get sick. But the body says right now, I'm sick. Why is the body sick? Well, the body has become aware of something that if it doesn't remove right now, it's going to become worse later. Mentally, we're like, oh my God, I'm sick. I'm going to miss work. I'm not going to get paid. I'm going to have to slow down. And there's all this panic and extra energy used around the firing of the miglia and all sorts of extra stuff there. So just tuning into the body is your best friend. It's never lied to you. And just always trying to give the body what it wants first without forcing. If you can relax in the deeper and deeper flows of energy, you'll find that there's a nuclear powerhouse inside each and every one of us. We're 1,000 times stronger and smarter than we give ourselves credit for, but we have to turn the body on. And how do we turn the body on? We slow the breath down and we feel everything as a potential teacher or guide.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Ed, thank you so much. My last question. So if this is a question for the viewers and the listeners of this podcast. So if someone's just finished and they're right at this point of the podcast right now and they're thinking, what do I do next? What would you recommend? So they've listened to this conversation. Is it go and get this book? Is it go and listen to this other podcast? Is it go to your website and watch something? What would you say would be an immediate action somebody could take off the back of finishing this podcast right now to help them improve their journey?
Well, there's 3 ways that basically you can work with me. Number 1, I do professional trainings. I have 15-hour and 25-hour breath as medicine trainings. I have fitness trainings. I have 2 books out. One is Life with Breath, IQ plus EQ equals a new you, which is more or less bringing the fundamentals of 10 basic breathing exercises into everything you're doing. I have another book called Body, Mind, Business. It's how do we bring this breath control and mindfulness stuff to the corporate setting where we invest in the human capital first, and the natural improvement of communication will increase our bottom line and healthcare costs will drop, and there'll be a lot more happiness and understanding in the workplace. And lastly, I do privates. I work with do private clients all over the world where we meet you exactly where you are and what your specific needs are at this point of your life. And then we get you going right into the next step of your journey.
Fantastic. So what I'll make sure, guys, is I will link to all of Ed's stuff below in the description and in the show notes, so you can just click on those links and go straight to all of Ed's links and channels, and we'll sort that out after this. Ed, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure and honour to get to talk to you for this hour and whatever it's been. It's at times absolutely flown by. I can't believe how quick it's gone. Any last parting comments from yourself before we close off the podcast?
Well, I would just like to inspire everyone to live their life through their heart. Take care of your heart rate. When you take care of your breath, you're taking care of your cardiovascular system. It's so important. And remember, your heart will never allow you to show up small. You'll understand why everything is happening. Failure doesn't exist. It's not like the brain. So just bring your heart and a controlled breath into everything you're trying to do in your life, all of your interpersonal and external relationships, and see if you just aren't amazed at how great it is to be you.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. What a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much, Ed Harrold. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and share if you're new to the channel. Go and check out some of the other stuff that we've got on here as well. We've got over 150 different videos now dedicated to breathwork, breathing exercises, interviews like this. And make sure you use the description below to check out all of Ed's links as well. Ed, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you again on the Breathcast. Thanks, everybody.
I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Cheers. And the last thing from me, just a very quick message. So we have now built this channel up. We've got the podcast, we've got all these wonderful breathing exercises, and we're really trying to grow the channel. And one way you can support us is we're actually got now some of our top breathing exercises on MP3. And I'll link that below. It's a little MP3 store, just a couple of dollars each, up to kind of $5. And you can actually buy one of the tracks that I've made. You can download it forever. There's no ads. That's yours, and it gives us a few dollars then to support the podcast and the Breathcast and the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to buy one of these MP3s, keep it forever, then click on the link below and you'd support us, and I'd really appreciate that. Until next time, thank you so much for watching Take a Deep Breath, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.